Greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to a very special episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. This is episode 115, and it is the 2-year anniversary show. I'm your host, Rick Verbanis, and as always, I'm joined by the best gosh darn co-host out there. That would be Mr. Bob Lucius. Oh, Bob said, if you want to call me baby, just go ahead now. And if you like to tell me maybe, just go ahead now. And if you want to buy me flowers, just go ahead now. And if you like to talk for hours, just go ahead now.
Keep it going, Rick. Keep it going.
Hi, Bob.
I'm just grooving over here, man.
Yeah,
It's like getting like that satellite radio thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm rocking this. What is it? Some 90s rock?
It totally was 1991 to be specific. Yeah.
All right.
What did I just greet you with, Bob?
That was Spin Doctors, Two Princes.
Exactly. And why am I doing that, Bob? Because it is, first of all, everybody knows you're a prince of a guy.
Aspiring to be a king, my friend.
Yeah. Well, someday. And two princes, right? Some people might say, you know what? Our wives might, if they were really, really pressed, refer to us as two princes. But actually, it is our second anniversary, Bob. So
already?
I know time flies when you're having fun, and we're having a lot of fun. In fact, if you like to talk for hours, that's us. Right?
Indeed. It is indeed. Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Well, happy anniversary, Bob.
Same to you, my friend. Same to you.
It's hard to believe that we have been doing this for 2 years, and this is episode 115. Wow. So much to be thankful for. Obviously, I'm thankful for you as being the best gosh darn co-host anybody could ask for. And I'm also grateful for our listeners. I'm grateful for our Facebook group, our moderators, our the people who post in the group. We're going to celebrate all of that. This is going to be one big celebration in this episode tonight.
Yeah. I got to say two things, Rick. First one is my wife says almost all the time, 2 years? You've been doing this for 2 years already? What the hell's wrong with you? That's the unspoken part. The other part is I'm grateful for this show. Rick, you asked me to join you on this 2 years ago, and I'd never done a podcast. And
me either.
Right? Yeah, right. And it's been quite a ride. Right. And I will say, as I'm sure our listeners know, if you listen to the show, if you participate in the show as I have, and certainly if you listen to it, you're going to learn stuff about Cap that you didn't know. And I've learned so much about Cap, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about the thing that I love most.
Yeah. Well, oops! Don't say that in front of your wife.
Door shut.
Or your son.
Whatever.
Yeah. Of all the fictional things in my life, that's what I love most.
Things and hard, paper copy things that
whatever.
Right.
So you know what? So the theme today, and Bob, you picked the theme, and I thought it was a great idea. The theme today is, what is your dream Captain America gift? So we got a lot to cover today. We're gonna look back over last year, kind of go over some highlights. We have listener messages about their dream cap gifts, and then we have a little contest. We're going to give away an autographed Mark Waid Captain America comic book. So at the very end of the show, we will reveal who our favorite message is from. And then, like we did last time we did this, Bob. So we did a 1-year anniversary episode in episode 64. And we're going to, just like back then, we are going to, on air, live, we're going to exchange gifts. I mailed
What?
you a gift. You mailed me a
Yeah.
gift. We haven't opened them. They are sitting right here. I have been a very good boy, Bob. I have not peeked. I have wanted to, but I have not peeked. So we'll exchange gifts. You know what, Bob? I got a little surprise for you. I'm going to reveal a top 5 list here on the show. And it has something to do with you.
Oh, that's going to be exciting.
It is. I'll do that towards the end of the show too. My own little personal top 5 list
Wow.
about Bob Lucius. And then we will end the show. We'll announce our next guest, and we'll talk a little bit about January, what to expect in 2023, what is in our podcast bucket list.
Ooh, that's an opportunity for us to dream anew.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we'll talk about our podcast resolutions.
Right, there you go.
In the new year. And Bob, so if people go back and listen to episode 64, they will see I did a montage of my hellos to you, because I try to do a different hello every episode. I kind of started with it, I don't know, maybe in the teens, maybe in the 20s. And I did a montage of all my hellos. It took me 3.5 hours to put together like a 3-minute blurb. Yeah. So guess what, Bob? I'm not doing that this year.
That's unfortunate. It was so hilarious last time.
I don't have that kind of time.
There's a lot of things I love about the show, but the hellos really, they get me. You had me at hello, I think is the quote, right? You had me at hellos.
Well,
yeah, those are great, because I know you put so much time into researching and trying to figure out just the right one to go with the show. So some listeners might think, they're just a throwaway line, but they're not, Rick. There's research. There's learning to be had from those hellos.
You have seen at least a couple of times where I have started the episode and we haven't started recording yet. And I'm like, Bob, I don't have a hello yet. And I think there's been at least a couple of times, maybe even this episode, where you were like, okay. And then you saw how much thought and effort and time it takes to kind of put into these things.
Yeah.
And sometimes they go quickly, maybe 5 minutes. That's a good day.
Yeah.
Some days it takes longer.
I mean, people just think this happens, Rick. It doesn't just happen. The magic is in your head, that creative magic. It doesn't just, it's not just spontaneous. It takes work.
Oh no, there's a lot of spontaneity there, Bob.
Spontaneity, yeah.
Yeah, that's
lots of spontaneity.
I'm spontaneous. Yes. So we talked about the Dream Cap gifts is the theme of the show. We put a request out there on our Facebook page. We reached out to our patrons via email, and we asked, hey, call in and let us know, what's your Dream Cap gift? What was your favorite episode? Things like that. And we thought for a little bit there, it was like, no one's calling in. Like, what happened? Like, this is disconcerting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we even have a contest here. Like, we're going to give away an autographed Mark Waid comic. Like, why are people not calling in? We got like, one message.
Yeah, it was like the run up to prom 1985 for me.
Why aren't they knocking down the door?
Why is nobody returning my calls? Is there something wrong with the messaging machine?
It turns out, no, there was something wrong with the receiving machine. Anchor, who publishes our podcast, is having technical difficulties. I had so many people, Bob, whether they pinged me, whether they emailed me, they told me, are like, oh yeah, I sent a message. Did you get it? I'm like, no. And then they're like, yeah, I did this. And then it goes to this blank screen. And guys, I feel so bad. I actually was on troubleshooting this for hours last night, trying to get this fixed in time for this episode, because it would be so much more fun to hear people's voices. And we know so many of you tried to do that. But we're on a timetable here. Bob's traveling. I've got lots of commitments. We're knocking out like 3 episodes in like 3 days in a row. We needed to record this tonight. We couldn't wait for Anchor to fix this. They'll get it fixed, I'm sure. So we're going to actually end up reading. Some people just, sent me emails saying, well, this is what I recorded. This is what I said. And we appreciate you guys doing that. And then we had, some people who posted on Facebook, some people who posted on Twitter. So we'll be reading those tonight. And then Bob's going to try to do them in different accents.
Yeah. And if you posted on MySpace, I'm sorry, we missed those.
There's a comedian. I gotta tell this story. There's a comedian. Gosh, I can't remember his name right now. It'll come to me later, of course. But he talked. This was a bit back when MySpace was still around, and he's talking about how his parents, are a little older and they're not, really, they don't understand social media, and his mom was talking to him saying, hey, why don't you get on my face? Your father gets on my face. You should get on my face. No, Mom, I think you got that wrong. Yeah. So anyway, we'll be reading those, but I am going to play a message that came through. And it's from Heath, who's one of our moderators. And he went ahead and sent this message, but just wait for the end and you'll see how this is getting just a little screwed up.
Hi guys, this is Heath Brown, and I'm calling in about my dream Captain America gift. Now, living in a dream world, I would say that my ultimate gift would be an original Captain America painting by Alex Ross, but I know that will never happen, so I'll be slightly more realistic and say a Red Skull Funko Pop. I've been looking for that guy for years and can't find one of the original ones in my price range, but at any rate, it's a dream. So anyway, thanks guys for the podcast and the great Facebook group, and happy anniversary.
Oh, my wife's coming.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I sound like when I'm like, talking on like putting an order. Yeah, I'd like if you send me that book by probably the end of the week, that'd be fine. I gotta go now.
Yeah, so we're having some technical difficulties here. So anyway, we appreciate everybody who attempted to call in, and I apologize it didn't work out. We'll try to get this fixed and we'll do another Q&A show. But I want to reply to Heath's message, because yeah, an Alex Ross painted Captain America cover, because he did all the covers, for that Coates series, right? Was like maybe volume 10, I think it was. Anyway, it came out a few years ago. And if you go to Alex Ross's website right now, he does have a couple of them still left. Now they're fetching a pretty penny. They're anywhere from 25 to 35,000 each.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you want to get one aftermarket, like somebody like one of the more popular covers that sold very quickly, you're going to pay even more than that. So yeah, that is.
Yeah, you think about it though, Rick. I mean, $25,000-$30,000 for a painted cover by Alex Ross is not really. It doesn't. I mean, it's a lot of money, right? I mean, obviously, yeah, but I mean, it doesn't sound excessive for what a lot of covers go for, and these are painted covers, and one of a kind.
Yeah, no. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
If we all had deep pockets, we would all agree that is, a reasonable price for an Alex Ross painted cover. But most of us don't have deep pockets.
Yeah.
I mean, you could buy a car. With that, you could buy a really nice car with that, or you could buy, 5 decent used cars with that money. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big chunk of change. So I get that. Now that Funko Pop that he mentioned, the Red Skull, ooh, that is a Chase figure. Now I know there's a lot of people out there, they don't get into Funko Pops, or may even not even know what Funko Pops are, right? They're the little plastic bobblehead things with the big heads, and they're kind of cutesy, and they come in these little square boxes. I certainly have my share of collection. But that Red Skull that he's talking about, you're talking $300 to $500 mint in box.
Wow.
Because it was so rare. It was so rare. And it was one of the original that came out in the first year, maybe second year, but I want to say it was one of the originals that came out. And so they didn't make a whole lot because they realized they were going to sell 20 times the amount of Captain Americas as they were Red Skull. So they didn't produce a lot. So it's very, very rare. And so that's why it goes for so much.
Huh. Wow. Funkos are such an interesting, collectible, right? I mean, I got to tell you, I wasn't that big into collectibles, Funkos, but they do grow on you after a while. They are pretty neat. And particularly some of those rare ones that are hard to find. We should do a show about that sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we have some members in our Facebook group that are really into those, and you could probably have them come on as a guest and talk about their collection. If there's, enough
top 10 coolest Funko cap related Funkos. That would be neat.
Yeah. I certainly have a little collection. Okay. So, talking about the Facebook group and the podcast, I thought, Bob, it would be kind of fun to talk about some metrics, some statistics from the podcast and from the Facebook group to kind of give our listeners an idea of the world they live in and who their fellow listeners are. What do you think?
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, I'd be interested to learn who actually listens to us.
Does somebody listen to us?
Interrompemos esse podcast para perguntar: quem você quer ser?
Designer, engenheira, pedagoga,
administrador.
Quer saber? O Senac EAD é nota máxima no MEC. Tem cursos de diversas áreas, com conteúdo elaborado por especialistas do mercado e professores mestres e doutores. Ainda tem o Senac Carreiras, conectando estudantes a vagas de emprego em todo o país. Saiba mais em ead.senac.br/graduação.
Uma pausa no seu podcast para falar sobre a beleza, essa força poderosa que nos move. No Grupo L'Oréal, nós criamos a beleza com sustentabilidade. Utilizamos em nossas embalagens 85% de plástico PET de origem reciclada. 65% dos ingredientes vieram de base biológica ou derivados de minerais abundantes. Grupo L'Oréal, nós criamos a beleza que move o mundo.
Yeah, so here you go. So in the last year, and we still have a few weeks to go, so the numbers will be more than what I'm about to give you, but we produced, Bob, over 4,124 minutes of new content. That's over 69 hours of new content as of like a week or so ago.
That is crazy. That's a lot. Right? That's a lot of minutes.
Not only that, Bob, but get this, of all other creators in our category, which we're in the leisure category, we produced more than over 98% of them. We're in the top 2% of time produced out there in our category, which I think is crazy,
Yeah.
But that just goes to show every Wednesday, like New Comic Day, we put out a new episode. We are very consistent.
Yep, we sure are. I mean, maybe not consistently good, but certainly consistently adequate.
Yes. Thank you. We are consistent. So you know how like the Spotify does like that end of year thing?
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be kind of cool to read some of the slides from this. So we're somebody's top 10 podcast for 125 people. We're their top 5 podcast for 93 people. And we're the number 1 podcast for 28 people. I know that doesn't sound like a lot.
No, I mean, you saw that slack-jawed look on my face, right? And you thought that's maybe what I was thinking, but I got to tell you, I'm like so touched.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Like somebody got their end of the year Spotify notice and then our logo showed up, like your number 1 podcast is that 28 people got that. And that's just Spotify. Most
that's
of our
really
listeners
cool.
are on other platforms, but that's just Spotify.
Yeah. I mean, Rick, I got to be honest with you. I do this because I love spending time with you and I love talking about CAP and I love hearing from the listeners. I love it. I love talking about what the listeners are interested in, but to know that some folks out there, consistently listen to us means a lot.
Yeah, it's actually really, I agree 100%. It does mean a lot. And, 40% of our listeners are actually followers, like where they listen to every single episode. So that's really cool. And we're in top 15% of most followed podcasts in that regard. So that's just surreal to me. But in fact, do you know what? Because you also get listed as you get categorized as a certain type of listener by Spotify. Our listeners, do you want to hear what they got categorized as?
Single.
Oh, that was the nicest word you could come up with, huh?
Well, that was the cleanest one.
Yeah. Their Spotify is classifying them as the time traveler.
Oh, I like that.
It says your listeners are audio time travelers. They seek out podcasts that are new to them, regardless of whether they're new to the rest of the world.
All right. I like that. I like that a lot. I thought you were going to say it was because we covered a lot of old stories, from the 60s, 70s, 50s, whatever. But I like that.
That's a good point too. That's certainly, we do time traveling in these podcasts. No, we produce evergreen episodes, right? So it's not like you have to listen and, for instance, I listen to some sports podcasts, right? And so I keep up on them, but to listen to something from 3 weeks ago that they put out is like old news now. It's like, why bother? Right. But for our stuff, you could go listen to the other 114 episodes and it's like new.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the interesting thing. Our episodes are evergreen, but when I looked in the mirror this morning, I was clearly deciduous.
Oh. Now you're making me Google deciduous.
My leaves are turning brown, drying up, and falling off the branches, my friend.
Oh, well, just be grateful you still have leaves.
Yeah.
Some of us don't, Bob.
Good point.
All right. So speaking of our listeners, 54% are in our age range, Bob.
Okay.
Which is 45 to 59-year-olds. Mm-hmm. So the biggest chunk of our listeners are in our age range, and that goes for Facebook too. 81% of our listeners are in the United States. Now, I'm not a math major, but that means 19% are in other countries. We're in a total of 87 countries, Bob.
Wow.
I know. Would you like to hear them?
I would, Rick. It's been a very long time since I heard a list of countries.
All right. So, U.S. being the top one, right? And Canada and the UK, United Kingdom, they come in very high in all our podcasts and also in our Facebook group. So shout out to the northern neighbors, Canada, and then across the pond in the UK.
Yep.
Here are some of the other countries that listen to us: Portugal, Australia, Brazil, Germany, France, Spain, Ireland, Greece, Philippines, Japan, India, Sweden, Italy, Republic of Lithuania, Colombia, Argentina, Singapore, Mexico, Malaysia, Norway, Belgium, Puerto Rico, Netherlands, Romania, South Africa, Czech Republic, Israel, Thailand, Bahrain, Denmark, Chile, China, United Arab, Austria, Bangladesh, South Korea, New Zealand, Switzerland, Ukraine, Dutch East Indies, Russia, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Kenya, Dominican Republic, Peru, Morocco, Iran, Finland, Vietnam, Ecuador, Croatia, Venezuela, Cambodia, Saudi Arabia, Poland, Sri Lanka, Lithuania, Bulgaria, Panama, Uruguay, St. Lucia, Taiwan. Now, Bob, all of those, were done in order
Mhm.
from most to least. Okay. Now, the next several countries, if you're listening, I want you to know you are the only person listening in your entire country. Okay.
And we
So-
value you.
Yes. The following countries, we have one listener. Okay. So if you are in that country, thank you. You are our one listener in your country. Are we ready? Okay.
Hold on. How many countries are we talking? Just off the top of your head. Just the number?
Like 18.
Oh, 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
Luxembourg, Lebanon, Jamaica, Bolivia, Egypt, Nepal, El Salvador, Ghana, Algeria, Myanmar, Malta, Hungary, Serbia, Turkey, Costa Rica, Iraq, Antigua and Barbuda. Uzbekistan,
Uzbekistan. Okay.
and lastly, Northern Marina Island.
So no North Korea. Interesting.
You were waiting this whole time for North Korea to show up.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, how cool is that? 87 countries, and we appreciate each and every one of you for listening.
Every
Now,
one of them.
now on Facebook, we have 99 countries. Do you want to hear them?
No, I'm going to pass on that.
Yeah, okay. We'll pass that. But anyway, so yeah, we have 99 countries actually in our Facebook group, and here's some, I think, some interesting stats from the last year. So if you've been on our Facebook page and you've contributed to this, thank you. All right. So in the last year, we've had 3,250 over 3,250 posts. All right.
That's a lot.
I know. Most of one day was 45.
Yeah.
Comments, over 20,000.
Again,
Okay.
a lot. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Reactions. And these are going to be, likes, hearts, smileys, things like that. 145,000. And here's the big one, Bob. Views of the group, of the posts and everything, over 414,000 in the last year.
Right.
So I want people to think about that.
Yeah.
That's a lot to approve. So I want to give a shout out to moderators, you, Bob, Heath Brown, Daniel Tenney. There's only 4 of us
Mhm.
that work on the Facebook page. So I want to give a shout out to you guys for all the hard work that you do, approving posts and monitoring comments and things like that.
Right. And I think I have pointed out already, Rick, that my wife is one of those viewers. And I occasionally get when did you get that statue?
I know. I can't tell you. There's been a few people who've said to me, can we make it a private group?
Right. Yeah. Just the other day, she's like, "Oh, that's nice." I'm like, what's nice, honey? I read recently that sometimes when your significant other says, when they're reading something, or they're like, "Ooh, that's interesting," it's a cry for. It's not a cry. It's a call for connection.
Mm-hmm.
And you should always follow up with, "Oh, what's so funny? Oh, what's interesting?"
Yeah.
And so the other night she's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And of course, I thought to myself, "Ooh, that's a call for connection." I said, what's interesting?" She's like, "Oh, this post you made in the Captain America group about," and I was like, "Oh, no."
And now
Safe space.
The next time she says, "Huh, that's interesting," you just crickets.
Crickets, go on through.
Anyway, so hey Bob, did you know we have a Twitter account?
I didn't know we had a Twitter account, Rick.
Yeah, no one else does either.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we do. I don't post on there nearly as often as I do in the Facebook page, because there's only like 143 followers on the Twitter page, but we do. And so we love our Twitter followers as well, because we post on there and and we get some comments, and we got some comments on their favorite gifts today. So we'll include those. Did you know we have an Instagram page?
I did not know we had an Instagram page.
And no one else does either, Bob.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I put my daughter in charge of posting on Instagram for me.
Okay.
It's been, I think, a year and a half
since
we've had a post on there.
It's, it really is. It's a different generation, right? I mean, certain generation likes Facebook. I find this, my job, we do social media.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if you find this, with your marketing work, but my staff are all much, much younger. They're generally in their 20s.
TikTok.
And they prefer TikTok, or they're not even TikTok. They're more Instagram. They're not young enough to be TikTok yet. But not young enough to use TikTok. So it's a weird dynamic, right? So
yeah, no, totally. So speaking of Facebook, Bob, I know you did a little look-see into maybe some of our top Facebook posts in the last year, and you had some interesting thoughts there, right?
Look, I just wanted to point out, I mean, as I said, I have learned so much from the Captain America comic book fans Facebook group since you started it way back in, what was it, April of 2020, around that time frame, March?
Yeah, it was beginning of pandemic.
Right. Yeah, it was right at the beginning of pandemic, and I joined shortly after. And I pay really close attention, like all the moderators do. And I think one of the most interesting things to do, if you've got the time, is to go back in time, right? We're all time travelers, right? After all, is to go back and take a look at like some of the gold that is in the group. And it really is, if you go back to the beginning, you find all kinds of gold. But I went back and looked over the last year, and I wanted to call out, some of the folks who routinely post, and they post interesting stuff, or they try to like find a niche where they're bringing something to the group members that haven't necessarily been brought before, and folks seem to really enjoy it. So I do want to give a shout out to Catman. Catman joined the group back in January. Now, maybe you don't know this, maybe you do. You know everything. You're all knowing. But he joined the group. He joined the group after listening to the podcast. That's where he heard about the group, right? And he jumped right in. And he's been one of the most prolific and I think most valuable contributors that we've had over the last year. So I especially love the posts that he's done on the wisdom of Captain America, where he's explored like topics such as Cap's views on war, back in March 21st, if you want to look up that post, or his view on guns back on May 5th, or the use of deadly force on April 15th. He's talked about America and patriotism and Cap's views on that, greed, Cap's views on free speech. I mean, he's done all these posts that are, very, very carefully researched with panels out of the books themselves. And I mean, they're just a great series of posts. And I think we owe Capman, a debt of gratitude for jumping right into the group and making it a place where we all can learn something new. Mm-hmm. So, and of course, that he also kicked off a series of posts on Fridays, right? Remember the Friday posts on member-generated art? Oh, yeah, that was fun, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's been a lot of fun, right? And so he's encouraged members to post their own Cap-related art. And we've seen some amazing fan-generated art from, members like Jason Ulrich, right? And Dakota Alexander and Ralph Werner and Stephen Penimpede and Rory Hensley. And even Catman himself has posted some of his own art. And I think that's been a lot of fun. I mean, we do have some professional creators. Some professional creators, right? Who Mike Perkins is in the group, and Tom Morgan, and we love seeing their art. We do, but it's great to see the fan-generated art as well. And so I want to thank Catman for that as well. A lot of great posts over the last year. And what about Bobby Tessier? You know what Bobby Tessier did, right? Remember those? T-shirt Tuesdays. T-shirt Tuesdays, right? He kicked that off end of last year, but it carried on through most of 2022. And it's a load of fun. I mean, post your favorite Cap T-shirt on T-shirt Tuesdays. And after a while, there were prizes associated with who got the most upvotes for their T-shirts. Now, of course, I got a prize. You got a prize, right? Yeah. Now, Bobby ran out of T-shirts eventually, unfortunately, right? But folks continue to post their t-shirts on T-shirt Tuesday. So he got something going and it's still going strong. And I love seeing those. I mean, I particularly love the vintage t-shirts, but I love seeing those shirts that like you've never seen before.
Yeah, some of those ended up on my like Christmas wish list.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and another thing that I loved seeing over the last year, Rick, has been the posts by members about their cap collections.
Mhm.
Now, I belong to a lot of statue Facebook groups, collector groups, where folks usually post. I mean, they got very high end collections, like custom cabinetry with custom lighting, all those and those are fun to see. I love seeing the high end statues. But I like the average Joe posts too. And we see a lot of those, right? Where folks like, this is my curated cap collection. These are things that I collected because I love cap. I don't have a lot of money, like a lot of folks. And I love seeing just like what guys like me are putting on their shelves in their offices or in their bedrooms. And I got to be honest with you, Rick, sometimes I click on those pictures and I zoom way the hell in, right? Because I want to see, I'm like, what's that little figure over in the right corner behind that big guy,
Mhm.
I want to
Yeah.
see. And sometimes you see stuff like, wow, you've never seen before. So, just in the last couple of months, like Dwayne Boris and Steve Kelly and KB Gabris and Robert Pritchard and Brian Russell and John Christian, they've posted their collections, right? And they've been amazing. Now, I don't know about you, but I got into this group. I collected Captain America comics, right? That's all I collected. And like, I had no interest in statues. I had no interest in Funkos, nothing but, no interest in original art.
Mhm.
And, posts from like Eilman and Dick Emery started turning me on to statues, right? And every now and again over the last year, they're like, hey, check out this new statue that's coming out, or this is one in my collection, or this is like Eilman's been doing a lot of those custom statues, right? Remember that one of Sharon?
Oh,
I know you do.
nice.
Yeah, I know. Remember that one, right? Right. So like I started collecting statues because of those guys, right? And I got to be honest with you, I got a few Funkos. I didn't like Funkos. I mean, I was like, not that I didn't like Funkos. I was opposed to Funkos on like, moral grounds.
Uh-huh.
But here I am with Funkos, right? Because seeing what other guys are collecting, other gals are collecting, it's just like, man, there's so much out there that I didn't know about. And that's the beauty of this group, right? The Captain America Comic Book Fans Facebook group, is that it exposes you to all these things. And you, right? You have shared so much about original art that I knew nothing about. It was a whole world I knew nothing about. And and I got a few pieces. Now they're small pieces, but it's a start, right? And we can all start with something. And the group teaches us about what to look for and what's available. And I mean, it's a wonderful thing.
I gotta say, I love that trip down memory lane, recognizing all the different members of the Facebook group who've contributed to the group. And not only did you give your wife a list of people to not like for inspiring you, you also pointed out all the different strengths of the group, and different loves. I mean, like one of my favorite sayings since being in this group is, when I see things, I'm like, wow, I didn't know I always wanted that.
Right. Exactly. Right.
When I see something for the first time,
Yeah.
they're like, I have some things in my collection now that I would never have thought about. Like I have now, going back to Captain America 286. That was the first comic that I remember, first Captain America comic that I remember buying with my own money. And I have been buying Captain America monthly ever since. And that was 1983. That cover is the cover of Deathlock, where he's got Cap and the
Right.
scopes, right?
Yeah.
Now, I didn't realize, or maybe I forgot, that they really promoted that story as a retailer. And there were flyers, like 8.5 by 11 full color glossy flyer ads that were like, sent to retailers. And, so that, retailer would say, hey, slip this in the bag. And like, this is coming out, Marvel gave it to them. Right. Well, I didn't know those were a thing and they exist. Well, I mean, crap, man, they're almost like 40 years old. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I found one on eBay. I have one now.
Right.
I
yeah.
also didn't know that there was a large poster size retailer black and white edition of that ad that they also sent to the comic shops. Now, those are even more rare because, right, they only send one to each comic shop, and who knows how many they made. So now I have one of those framed, you know, that I bought off of eBay, thanks to learning about it in the group. So you're right. There's like all these cool things that, you know, every day is like a trip down memory lane.
It really is, you know, and you know, one of the other things I really appreciate, and I want to give a shout out for all the folks who do this, is that, you know, if I see a good deal, cap related stuff, you know, I post it because I know I want my fellow fans to get a shot at it, you know, whether it's a Captain America shield on Amazon or you know, something I saw on eBay, a Sentinel of Liberty badge or something. And I appreciate when other folks do that. And I remember, you know, just recently, I think it was back in November, Jake Branson, one of our members in the Facebook group, he saw these cap related mini Funkos at that retail store, Five Below, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, Captain Carter, you know, I love Captain Carter. And they had some Captain Americas and some zombie caps and stuff like that. And like, I rushed right out to like my local Five Below and I picked up a bunch of them, right? Because they were cheap and they're kind of cool. You know, they look cool on your desk. And so, you know, thank you, Jake Branson, for giving us that little intel. And so I love when folks do that, and folks do it all the time in the group. And I really do appreciate that.
100% agree. All right, so Bob, so let's take a look back on the podcast. Let's take a look back over the past year, right? Let's just talk about a trip down memory lane. Let's look at some of the things that we covered in the podcast. And before we get into the topics that we covered, there's a little something I got to get off my chest.
Oh,
all right, because we're coming up on a new year, and I seem to recall this time about a year ago, you and I saying, yeah, you know, I got to lose a little weight. Really? Yeah, me too. How much you got to lose? I got to lose 10 pounds. Hey, I got to lose 10 pounds. Hey, we should have a little bet. So to kind of encourage each other to lose weight. You know what? When you put it out there to the world and other people know about it, now you have to follow through with it. So let's do it on the show. Yeah, great idea. Let's do that. Okay. So we go ahead and we make a bet on the show. And what do we bet, Bob?
It was someone was going to sing a song, right? Of the other person's choice.
And we had a lot of fun with this, right? We had a lot of fun.
It's tough to pick a choice. Yeah.
Every episode, we would come up with a different song. Like, well, if you lose, I'm going to make you sing this, right? And we came up with the silliest, funniest, funkiest songs out there.
It was hard because you have a voice like a golden bird, you know. Like there were so many songs I wanted. Yeah.
I am not a good singer. I feel bad I know there's a lot of people out there when I do my hello to you, they just have their finger pressed, right, hovering over top of the fast forward button. Oh, where's the plus 30? Where's the plus 30? Anyway, so we had a lot of fun with it, right? And then something funny happened, Bob.
Well, I wouldn't say it was funny at all, Rick.
All of a sudden,
it's a little awkward, a little disturbing.
You drastically lost a lot of weight in one week.
One weekend,
and somehow won the bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to, for those who maybe new listening, can you maybe explain how you all suddenly lost a lot of weight in 1 week and won the bet?
Yeah, I can do it in 5 syllables, Rick. Colonoscopy. Just, good, appropriate, and necessary bowel health. Yeah. Which I do believe you went through not too much later than that yourself. You know?
Yeah. Much
being men of a certain age.
Yeah. Well past the bet, though. Not to help me during the bet. Yeah. Well, so we put this out there.
Are you suggesting, Rick, that I scheduled a colonoscopy specifically to win a bet to get you to sing a song?
I wouldn't put it past you.
Well, I
totally
wouldn't either now that you mention it, but I wish I had thought of that,
Oh,
actually.
wind beneath his wings. Yeah, let's do that.
Well, it wasn't beneath my wings, Rick.
And there was a lot of wind. Oh boy. Yeah, so we even put it up to the Facebook group. We put it in a poll and I got shamed.
You did.
I got
that.
shamed.
You
A lot of
were, yeah.
people were like, well, Steve wouldn't be this upset about it.
Sure that hurt.
And wow, way to kick a man while he's down.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Right?
I
Yeah.
must feel like you should plug that song in here someplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say, because I'm like that Rolodex, like, oh, listen to episode blah if you want to hear blah. I somehow conveniently forgot the episode where I sing
Wind beneath my wings.
Wind
right?
Beneath the Wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
forgot. Yeah.
Interesting thing is, I get a sense. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I've only known you for a couple of years, and most of it has been long. Well, all of it's been long distance, but I get a sense that you have a competitive streak, as and my wife does as well, and my son both are like uber competitive, and I am not at all competitive in any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, my wife, on the other hand, if my wife and I were having this competition, oh, sure as hell, she would have scheduled a colonoscopy simply to come out ahead.
Okay. I will tell you, I will cop up to this. Okay. Yes, I am competitive. But however, it's because I like to compete. Winning and losing is actually not a big deal to me. And let me now pause here and let me finish. All right. I just like to compete. Like when I get together with my friends, we usually have an activity. It's playing cards, it's throwing cornhole, it's doing an activity because I like competing. I have fun competing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind losing as long as it's done fairly.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the other part of me that's really, really big. Like maybe that's why Steve Rogers appeals to me so much.
Yeah.
Is because I follow rules. I am a rules follower.
You're a rule follower.
When I am in a leadership role, I enforce rules.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Because I believe in fair play. I believe in a playing field that is even, that no one has an advantage. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm a commissioner of a fantasy football league. Right. I go so far as to tell my opponents, oh, by the way, you have a guy on a bye week this week. You need to make sure you start him. Right. Because I would do that for all of the teams. So I'm certainly not going to do it for my opponent. That would be unfair. That would be, whatever. So like, that's the kind of guy I am. I don't mind losing.
That last 30 seconds, by the way, you might as well have been speaking in a foreign language.
Oh, fantasy
but I'm
football?
sure there's many listeners who know exactly what you're talking about. But
what is this bye week you're talking about?
That sounds, I don't know what that is.
They say goodbye?
Yeah. Are you the sort of person, let me just get a quick question, because I know in my family, this is a point of tension, because I'm a rule follower. Do you cross against the light? And do you ever cross the street outside of the crosswalk?
Yes.
Okay. My wife, I won't. I will, like, the crosswalk's there for a reason, folks. And,
sure. Well, it depends on the situation. Like if I'm in a downtown city.
Yeah.
If I'm in a downtown city, absolutely I'm going to cross at the crosswalk and I am going to wait for the light. But if I'm in my, like, I don't know, local town.
Sure. Okay.
And
I'll still wait.
My car is parked across the street. I will walk across the street to my parked car who's parked on the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's my local town, but if I'm in like a downtown busy.
Yeah. I will still wait. I mean, I will say, honey, no, you can't, we're not going. I don't care if there's no cars coming the other way. We're not going. We got to follow the rules here because, this is how the breakdown of civilization occurs. If we cross now, we get Planet of the Apes, and we're not doing that.
And solely agree as people.
Yeah. So we had that discussion this weekend. So
what did she do that?
Well, no, I mean, they were crossing. She's like, oh, let's just cross the street here outside of the crosswalk. I was like, no. What are you doing? We're rule
What-
followers.
What is Barney Fife going to come across the street? You know,
No,
is
it's not for
Gomer
self-pre-
Pyle going to be citizens
It's-
arrest? Citizens arrest.
No, it's not self-preservation. It's just social modeling.
You know, there's two
right?
people listening who got that reference.
Yeah. It's social modeling, right? You wanna make a good example, not only for Bobby, but but for others who see, right? Because you know, that's my background, social psychology, so I know the power of social norms.
I agree.
And when you see people breaking norms, that becomes the new norm. So you know, the whole broken windows sort of philosophy.
I agree. I get it. I get it.
Where were we?
Talking about 2022 weight loss
Oh,
challenge.
right.
Yeah. So, anyway, congratulations, Bob.
And both
Again,
of us
I don't mind
are
losing.
still 10 pounds lighter, which is amazing.
I don't mind losing as long as it's an even playing field. And I didn't feel like it was. It didn't feel like it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah.
maybe we'll do it again this January. I know I could totally lose 10 more pounds again.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to go in that direction. I'd like to lose weight, maybe even 10 pounds, but you know,
you don't want to put it out there for the world to
I don't
know.
you know, one of the things that I discovered last time, and I think you might have discovered this as well, is that it's hard to lose weight and try to gain muscle. Right. And so one of the things I really want to try to do to get back into the gym is to start lifting weights again. And, you know, and last time I kept putting off lifting. I was doing a lot of cardio and stuff, but I was really putting off anything that would potentially put on muscle mass because I knew that was going to weigh more. And I don't want to do that this time. I do want to lose weight and get more lean, but I think I want to start you know, doing some weightlifting again and try to get back in it. Especially my son now is into it.
Sure.
And so it might be a good opportunity for us, you know, to bond a little bit in the gym.
All right. Well, that was fun back in the year, looking back, doing that weight loss challenge. You know, there's other topics that we covered this year. So, you know, as most of our episodes, we pick a story, whether it's a comic or several comics, and we go through those stories and we read those. And we certainly covered the Captain America series, right? We covered volume 1 a bunch. We covered volume 3. We did the Taskmaster issue. And we covered volume 4, I think, for the first time, which was well, I mean, it wasn't the first time. It was the second time. But we did the Robert Kirkman, you know, the end of volume 4. We actually did volume 7 for the first time, which we did the Loose Nuke story.
Yeah.
That was really good. We even went back further into Tales of Suspense a couple of times. We did the Captain America Sentinel of Liberty 1990s series by Mark Waid.
Awesome story.
Right.
Yeah.
We did that. And then we did some newer stuff, right? We covered the Captain America Iron Man miniseries.
Yep, that was fun. Yeah.
We covered the new stuff. We covered Captain America 0 and then Sentinel of Liberty #1 and Symbol of Truth #1. So we you know, we had a little, you know, we had old stuff and we had new stuff. And then we went outside of the Captain America series, right? We did the Captain America appearances in other books, like his first meeting with Sergeant Fury in the Howling Commandos in issue 13. We did recently we did the Captain America Black Panther miniseries, Flags of Our Fathers.
Ooh, that was great.
We did the Mythos origin, you know,
right? The one shot. Yeah.
We did the She-Hulk series, which you know, was an older Cap being defended by Jennifer Walters. And then I think the big one that we did, we launched in January, and it took us, gosh, what was it? We covered 8-part series. We covered 24 issues, and that was the Captain, you know, by Mark Grunwald, mostly Kieran Dwyer, but also a few other artists there. We did the Road to the Captain. Basically, we covered Captain America Volume 1, issues 327 all the way up to 350. So it was 24 issues over the course of 8-part series. And we did that, I think it was like the second Wednesday of every month. And so that was a big undertaking. And we'll need to consider what we want to do for for next year is that as well. So again, lots of different topics. We did do a top 10 list, Bob. We did the top 10
Yeah.
other Cap retcons,
Right.
which you did an excellent job kind of pulling that together. So it was a lot of fun looking at those topics over the years. Did you have a favorite episode? Because we'll get into favorite interviews, but separating the interviews from the rest. Did you have a favorite episode that in the last year?
I've been thinking about this a lot, Rick, and I got to tell you, it was a tough choice for me. Initially I wanted to go with episode 95, which was, and you may remember that one. It was sort of a retrospective on Rick Verbanas, right? With we had John Sewell, Seth Tolley, Doug Hogan, and then we came and talked about your old days at the comic shop. I really loved that episode, Rick, and it made me think about the group. It made me reflect on my own time getting into comics and like the importance of friendships and the ability to talk about the things that that you enjoy together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was so honored to be part of that show and to be part of that group of four and sharing memories, and that meant a lot to me. So I mean, if folks haven't had a chance to listen to that show yet, it will take you back to similar moments in your own life. So I encourage you to do that. But really, the show that I loved, my favorite, was episode 102, where we covered She-Hulk 8 through 10. This was the 2014 volume from 2014. And, the reason I like that, Rick, and we talked about this a lot during the show, right? It's one of those things where Cap is not in uniform, and he's Steve Rogers, right? He's an older guy. He's an older Steve Rogers. And it involves a story about Steve Rogers before he was Captain America. Now, we've talked about this, why those stories are great. And there's so few of them. Really, there's only less than you can count on one hand stories that talk about Steve Rogers before the super soldier serum.
Right.
But one of the things I loved about that show was how important it was to you, how special that show was to you, and how much joy you got out of that show. And that's one of the things I love about Captain America comics, and the way that we share it in the podcast, we share it in the group, is that, we always sort of gravitate to certain genres, certain themes in the Captain America comics that really touch us in a certain way. And it's awesome to me to see a story light up a person in the way that story lit you up.
It did.
Yeah, I know it did, and it came through in that episode. And, that's what makes it so genuine, so authentic, and such a special show for me this year.
Well, that's awesome. I thank you for picking that. I mean, wow, both of those were focused on me. Your two choices there. That's awfully nice. That episode 95 where John Sewell, Seth Tolley, Doug Hogan, they came on as guests. We called it the Comic Shop Guys. And it was a retrospective / roast for me. And it was a lot of fun. And we'll have those guys back on definitely next year for another time as well. But yeah, gosh, that's She-Hulk. Talk about, again, the Facebook group providing things to you that you didn't know you always wanted. Right. Like, I didn't know about that story, but I was like, oh, you know what? She-Hulk is on Disney Plus. We should probably do something that ties in. When did Cap meet She-Hulk? And we put it out there, and a few people recommended the story, and I was like, oh, I'll check it out. Loved it. For the reasons you mentioned, because, you got Steve Rogers pre-serum, and how, because my favorite fictional character of all time is Steve Rogers, not Captain America. It's Steve Rogers. And to see Steve Rogers, not Captain America, in both versions,
right? Yeah.
Pre-serum and post-serum. And it was such a well-written story. What's his name? Saul?
I think so. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Saul, I think his name is. And I think he's like an attorney, right? And so him writing this story about Jennifer Walters, it had all the different parts of the, a courtroom drama, and everything else going along with it. It was a lot of fun. It was a great, and you know what bothers me the most about that episode was I made a mistake. This is the first time and only time I've ever done this, where two podcasts launched on the same day.
Right.
And so it was episode 102 and 103. And so 102, which was the She-Hulk episode, then 103 was the Mythos Captain America, which is the one-shot origin episode. And so most people, when they get their podcast, it's whatever the most recent one shows up first is one they listen to. So I have a feeling a lot of people missed out on the She-Hulk one.
Right.
So if it doesn't ring a bell, if you didn't listen to the She-Hulk one, like Bob said, go back, listen to episode 102.
Not to mention, folks didn't pay for that one. Right? Oh, what? These are free?
They're all free, Bob. They're all free.
What about you, Rick? What was your favorite episode?
Well, I struggled with this as well. But I had to go with episode 98. That one where we reviewed Captain America 443. What was special about Captain America 443? Well, it was the very last Mark Gruenwald issue.
Yeah.
It was the ending of his 10-year run. So that was a heavy story because Cap dies in that issue, or seemingly dies in that issue, right? You also have a lot of reality going on, right?
Mhm.
Because Mark Gruenwald basically had knew this was his last issue. So he went ahead and you could tell in his writing, it wasn't the same as all the others, right? There was a little anger in there. There was a little sadness in there. And I think those were some of the experience, things that he was expressing. So you have that element.
Mhm.
Then, we had Jason Olsen as a guest on the show. Now, Jason Olsen is the writer of a book. He's I think a professor, right? But he wrote this book called Mark Gruenwald and the Star-Spangled Symbolism of Captain America, which was a retrospective about the Mark Gruenwald era of comics and for Captain America. So we thought, well, who better to have on the episode than Jason Olsen to kind of talk through it, right? And so we did a lot of pausing as we were going through the story. We did a lot of pausing to reflect on things, and it was a lot of fun with doing that. And then I had a surprise guest on the show for you that you weren't aware, the listeners weren't aware, no one was aware, and we had John Waller Sewell on the show. Now John has been on the show a few times, as a guest, as himself, but also as a voice. He's done the voice of the Red Skull, and he's done the voice of Batroc the Leaper. And let me tell you, my favorite thing to do is to do the Batroc the voice. Mon ami, I love doing it. Magnifique. But I knew it would be a lot more fun having someone else who also did the voice on the show.
Yeah.
And so he came on to do that as a surprise to you. Now, Bob, in doing a little research on this, because I knew we were going to talk about this episode, I was like, well, I'll play a little blurb from this, and I'll get to that in a minute. But Bob, I am so, I don't know, frustrated, disappointed. I don't know what to tell you. This episode came out 4 months ago. And it's missing 3 minutes and 40 seconds in the middle of the show.
It's like the Nixon tapes.
It's completely missing. So there's a part where I'm like, and Bob, here's the surprise guest. And here's, John Sewell coming on going, bonsoir, mon ami, right? And he comes on. All that's gone. It just cuts right into him and I in character doing a part from the comic. And it was, I don't know. I'm disappointed that I guess people didn't realize it, but man, so anyway, I fixed it. So listen, go back, even if you've listened to that episode, go back and listen to it again. It's episode 98. Okay. And there's now a bonus 3 minutes and 40 seconds in the middle of the spot, but it's a lot of fun banter with John Sewell as Batroc Le Lipper. So anyway, I highly recommend that.
Oh, he's wonderful. I mean, he's a fan favorite, and I'm the biggest fan. He brings so much when he comes to the show.
And here's the part that that really got me, and I think will get the listeners too. 9.5 hours to live, and I'm having tea with Batroc in the Avengers Library.
I have never seen you like this, my foe. Is there something troubling you?
I just learned that I let a young boy down, that I stopped being his hero, that he stopped believing in heroes altogether. I know I can't be there for everyone, but this one really disturbs me. It makes me feel like my whole struggle, all these years, had been in vain.
Capitan, it is not like you to talk this way. Tomorrow is another day, another chance to be great.
No, Batroc, it's not. There isn't a tomorrow for me. I'm dying tonight.
You are joking.
I wish. I have a heart condition. That's why I'm wearing this sardine can. I had an omen that at 10 tonight, my heart stops. You better leave now, Batroc. I'm suddenly very tired.
I will miss you, mon ami. You are the only man I have never beaten. Is there something I might do for you?
No one I've ever fought has ever reformed. The world needs heroes now more than ever.
You aren't the only one, Rick, that really hit, right? I mean, that whole dialogue beginning there. I think by the time we were done with that issue, we were all quite emotional. I mean,
yeah,
it really hit home.
It did, a little choked up. I think.
Yeah, I was a lot choked up.
Jason was as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really hit home. It's one thing to read the dialogue. It's another thing to hear it played out like that, and it hits in a different way. Mm-hmm. Particularly when the dialogue is read with, respect by fans who are putting themselves into it in the way that you and John did. And that was a great episode. And I gotta encourage all the listeners, if you hadn't listened to it, if you have listened to it, go back and listen to it again, especially that last half. And
there's a bonus track, Bob. There's 3 minutes and 40 seconds you've never heard before.
You will get something out of it even the second time around, because it was a wonderful episode.
All right, so Bob, let's get to. All right, so that was our favorite episodes, right? So let's get to what the listeners, when they I would say call in, but they wrote in what theirs were. But before we get to that, you mentioned before Capman. He sent in, this was supposed to be his recording, but again, it didn't work out. So he's like, well, this is what I was going to say. So he wrote, "Happy 2-year anniversary, Rick and Bob. Thanks for every single episode you put out during that time and for the hard work you put into them. There are so many great episodes. I love the episodes discussing the Cap retcons and the episode about the different retelling of Cap's origin. I also really love the interviews. I especially enjoy the interviews with current Cap writers Lansing and Kelly, and the interview with Steve Englehart, and both episodes with Professor Dan White. But if I had to choose one, I would say that your interview with J.M. DeMatteis in episode 13 is my all-time favorite. Keep up the great work, guys."
All right. A little correction to Capman. It was Mark White.
Yeah.
I think Dan White was the guy who shot the mayor, Moscone, in San Francisco and had the Twinkie defense. So we don't want to confuse those two. We didn't have a show with that guy.
Well, maybe he listens to Cap.
Could be it. Yeah. He's got a lot of time on his hands in prison, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. But we appreciate you trying to make the effort to call in and then sending us the message nonetheless. So as far as the favorite gifts are concerned, Bob, I kind of group these into categories, right? The first category is their dream Captain America gift is a comic book. Okay. So the
All
first
right.
one,
Yeah.
Steve Rogers. No, I'm serious. It actually is Steve Rogers. He's a really nice guy. I've had a chance to chat with him a little bit. He's also a patron of the show, so thank you, Steve. We appreciate that. And this was his message. This is Steve Rogers from San Antonio, Texas. Yes, really, I was just that lucky. Like most of us, my dream Captain America gift would probably be a mint copy of Captain America Comics #1 from 1941. My dad was 11 years old when that came out, and he told me he probably had a copy back then. Hindsight is 2020. I started collecting comics in the early 1970s, and I picked up the 2-volume Steranko History of Comics when they were still new. My non-existent dream gift would be for him to complete the projected 6-volume series, but that's not going to happen at this point. My only possible achievable dream gift would be to have Jim Steranko autograph my copies of Captain America 110, 111, and 113.
Well,
Very
that's
nice.
certainly doable, right? I mean,
Yeah, he's in
that's
the circuit.
achievable.
He's in the circuit. I actually had him a year or two ago sign my 111, and then recently I went by. I didn't bring anything for him to sign. I was merely pitching, please be a guest on the show. But he's a very busy man.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, that would be a really cool gift.
Well, Rick, we had another Facebook member who also had a similar wish, and that was Walter Cahill. Now he said, "Well, I'm pretty sure I could only own this in a dream, but Captain America Comics #1 would be an amazing gift to receive." I think we can all agree with that.
I think we all agree.
You know, where would I put it though? Right? I'd be constantly paranoid if I had it out trying to display it in my home office. I'd have to lock it up someplace, and then I wouldn't be able to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it'd be like in some sort of plastic encapsulate, right?
Right. I'd have lasers. It'd be very Mission Impossible, in my office, and it'd like slice off my appendages every time I went in my office because I sure as hell would forget I had the lasers on. So yeah, it's just it's more of a problem than it's worth, probably.
Especially the sharks.
The sharks, yeah.
All right, Greg Whittle, he wrote he would want his dream gift would be Captain America's Weird Tales 74. And then he said CGC 3.5.
That is very specific, right?
Oddly specific.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I had one. I have like a 4.0, and I would have sent it to him. But it seems like that maybe is higher than he's looking for.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Now, that's an interesting book, right? I mean, it was the last Golden Age Captain America comic with Captain America in it. And I had a story with a Red Skull and Captain America battling it out in hell. I mean, it's a great book, and it's very, very hard to find. Even at a 3.5, it'd be difficult to find. So it's a great gift idea. I wish him luck.
Yep.
All right. So we actually had a couple comments on Facebook from Brian Marlett and Jeer Dolan. Both of them, if they could have anything, would want a Captain America 100 under the tree this year.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good one. Tom Kadzilowski, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. He wrote, my dream Captain America gift would be an autographed Mark Waid Captain America comic. Seriously. I've met the man several times, and he's delightful as he is talented. If he's writing it, I'm reading it. Well, that was, I don't know. That's quite a, hey guys, I want to win the prize.
Well, you gotta take whatever shot you can.
Yeah. Be more specific. Can you be more specific, Tom?
Yeah. But hey, he's right though, right? He is right. We had a great interview with Mark Waid. He was delightful, and it was very informative and very engaging. And he was a great guy to talk to. I'd love to have him back because we learned a lot. And he's had such an impact on the Captain America mythos. And though he said that he would never come back and work on a Captain America book again, never say never.
Yeah. All right, Sean Connery. All right. So Batchuck himself, John Waller Sewell, he said his wife he says, my wife and I are both recovering from COVID, so I haven't really felt up to recording a message. Besides, I don't think anyone would care to hear Batroc coughing. Happy anniversary to you and Bob and the podcast. My favorite episode has been the interview with J.M. DeMatteis. And my Cap Grail item would probably be the cover to Captain America 444 signed by all the creators. I don't know if that was just a Captain America 444 signed or the cover like the original art.
Huh.
That would be amazing.
Right. That would be. Yeah. Well, I hope he and his wife are feeling better. He's such a great guy.
Yeah.
Such a wonderful guest to have on the show, and just one of my favorite people that I've met in the group so far.
Yeah, he's a good friend.
All right.
This next category, Bob, is statues or shields.
Ooh, both, please. Yeah, why not both? So Liesl Boylan, she wrote that, she was looking for under the tree in the stocking, however gifts are delivered these days, the Bradford Exchange statue of Captain America on the motorcycle that came out a few years back. Apparently she paid for it, but there were complications with the delivery and they never got it and they never got their money back. So hope Santa, come on, man, hook her up. Get that Bradford Exchange statue to her, which is a cool statue. Cap on the motorcycle, very easy rider-like bike. I've seen it. I think everybody has probably seen it. If you haven't, Google it. It's a cool statue. I hope she gets it.
All right. Next, under the statue shield category, Steve Kelly wrote, he's looking for his dream Cap gift is a full-size Captain America statue display.
Wow.
Now, all right, what's a full size? Like, is that life size?
1-to-1, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What is a full size?
Yeah, I've seen those on Alibaba. And I've seen that one that Alex Ross uses as as a model, a life model for his illustrations. That would be a cool one to have. So maybe he's talking about that.
All right.
That's a lot of dusting.
Just go.
So Jordan Nelson, he wrote that he wants a Marvel Legends 80th anniversary comic shield. He says he has the original movie color shield they released. He has the Falcon and the Winter Soldier shield, and he's working to get the stealth shield that came out last year. But the classic comic shield is the only one he's had trouble tracking down. So I'm wishing him luck this year that Santa and the elves bring him that shield.
Yeah, that would be cool. And I got to say, I mean, I'm always partial to the comic version over the MCU version. And I would say the classic comic version, because even like the current one with the Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty, it has the MCU version of the shield because the shards on the star
and the grooves and all that jazz.
Yeah, I like the painted one better, but that's just me. All right, so this next category is original art, something I'm fond of. BJ Shea said they would like a replica shield, but if not, they would want the Uncanny X-Men 268 cover with Captain America, Wolverine, and Black Widow. You know that one?
I
By
sure
Jim
do.
Lee?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that? That's got to be like a six-figure piece.
Undoubtedly. Jim Lee's regular stuff goes for, large
double
amounts.
digits. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on Twitter, the Mad Titan of Maine.
I do like that
replied-
Twitter handle. Yeah.
Yeah. Not to be confused with the Mad Titan of Alabama.
Right. No, different guy. Yeah.
Totally different. Yeah. In my fantasy world, LOL, the original art to the annual number 8 cover would be an absolute dream to have. That's the Mike Zeck, John Beatty cover where Wolverine and Cap are fighting.
Beautiful.
I mean, man,
iconic. Yeah.
to have that cover, that also could probably fetch 6 figures. But I don't know, probably 70 to 80,000. I'm thinking.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
An actual realistic item would be the Cap Man and Wolf trade paperback, which is a really fun story, and I only have about half the issues of the full story right now. So he's referring to the Man and Wolf 6-issue miniseries, right? That was done by Mark Grunwald. I want to say in the early 400s. and it was, Wolverine was in it, Cable was in it, Wolf's Bane was in it, Cap turns into Cap Wolf.
Yeah.
Little fun story.
Yeah.
So he wants the trade paperback for that.
Yeah. That Funko came out last year, Rick. That was everybody was
have
all
it.
over that one, right?
I have
yeah.
it. I have.
Right.
I have the T-shirt too.
You do. Yep. So in the other category, Rick, not comic, not original art, not those sort of things, not statues. Aaron Paul wrote that he would like the original Marvel 1000 essay by Mark Waid as either a screensaver or a poster. A poster, that would be kind of cool. I'd love to see that.
It would be, because he said the original essay, right?
Yeah.
Because Mark wrote a certain thing, and it was found to be a little too controversial by the Marvel editors, publishers. So they had him rewrite it, which is what ultimately ended up in Marvel 1000. So what he's looking for is the original one by Mark Waid.
Yeah.
And that, when we had Mark Waid on the show, we did talk about that.
We sure did.
And he talked about the original, and he talked about the difference, and he talked about why it happened and how he handled it. So it's a great episode to hear about that. Now, I'm a very fortunate man, and part of my original art collection, I actually have the art to that by John Cassidy. It doesn't have Mark Waid's words on it, but it is the art of Cap standing on that big boulder holding the ginormous American flag. It's a really cool piece of art, and I have it framed, and I'm staring at it right now.
Have you thought about just penciling in the words yourself?
Yeah, I did, but I want to color it, hand color it first.
It's a beautiful piece of art. Yeah.
Yeah. James Grogan wrote, he wants a good costume to go with this, and he's holding a shield. I'm partial to the first Avenger suit. So his dream gift is a cosplay costume.
Well, I get that. I belong to some of those cosplay groups, Rick, and I got to tell you, I'm tempted from time to time, and then I look in the mirror and go, I can't pull this off. But those costumes, the work that folks put,
you could totally pull off Doughboy.
$1,000, $2,000 for these suits, right? But folks put a lot of time and effort into getting them just right, and so that would be an awesome gift to have that one delivered under your tree. All right.
You could pull off Doughboy, and I could pull off Helmut Zemo without the mask.
I was thinking you'd be a really good machine smith.
Oh, is that a ball joke, Bob?
No. I just think because you're really smart in that way.
Okay.
So we have one last one. Scott Ruplin, who is again a very
He's a patron.
He's a patron, frequent commenter, good friend. He wrote that short of some of his favorite Golden Age Cap books, which would be the ultimate, he would go for an original Sentinel of Liberty pin. And if that's not enough, he'd want it with the membership card that came with it. And that would be amazing. Those are far and few between, not just the badges, but the cards themselves. Hard to find, Rick. Very hard to find. I've been looking one, for a long time, and they don't come up very often.
What do they go for?
Well, the pins or the cards.
Both.
Yeah. Well, the pins, you can get them. Sometimes, it's one of those things where it's all about timing, right? And so they come up on eBay occasionally, and you can sometimes pick them up for $300. Sometimes they'll be as much as $700, $800, depending on the condition. But it really depends on if you see it when it pops up. So if you're looking for one of those, make sure you put those in your your permanent search terms so that you get notified when they do come up. Now the cards, well, they're paper, right? And so a lot fewer of those survived from the 1940s. And so those things can run $900, $1,000 for a card that is in decent condition.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
but Scott's worth it. So hope you get it, buddy.
They did do a 1990 version, right?
They sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the plastic 1990 version, which, hey, it's still over 30 years old. So it's kind of a, vintage piece in its own right. I got it from somebody in the group. He was selling those. He had some extras. And then he also made replicas of the card. right? So I don't have authentics, but I have replicas, and that's also kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, those 1990, there were two that came out in 1990, right? It was the steel ones that were, I think, 1,500 or 2,500. I can't remember what that was.
Quantity.
By Planet's, Quantity, Planet Studio. And then the plastic ones that were also Planet Studio, produced for Marvel Comics to give out at conventions. And if you think about it, I mean, I have some of those, the plastic ones. They're extremely fragile. They break very easily. And so, they're 30 years old.
On them, Bob.
Well, I know, but I can't help myself. It hurts so good. But they're 30 years old. They're getting older and older. More and more of those are going to break simply because they're so fragile. And those are going to become increasingly rare and hard to find. So if you're looking for those, get them now, because they're going to be almost impossible to find at a decent price in 10 years from now.
And take good care of them.
Yeah, indeed.
Hey, Cap fans. Well, in all of our excitement with everything we had to cover in today's episode, Bob and I forgot to mention who the winner was of the Mark Waid Captain America autographed comic. And so I went ahead and took all of our entries, assigned them a number, went online, did a random poll, and the winner is Steve Rogers. No, not Steve Rogers, Captain America, but Steve Rogers, the listener. He was the one who was hoping to get a Captain America Comics #1 someday, but more realistically, hoping to get Jim Steranko to autograph his Captain America comics. And while we can't help you with Jim, Steve, we can help you with a Mark Waid autographed Cap comic. Congratulations. All right, so Bob, while we're talking about gifts, I wanted to mention a website that I came across. It's an organization that takes comic books and donates them to hospitals for children. And they do, they send them to hospitals, they send them to cancer units. And it's a great organization. It's called Comic Books for Kids. And so I highly recommend, if you have any comic books that you're sitting on that, you know what, you thought about selling, but you don't want to go through the effort, or you tried selling them and, well, maybe they're just not worth a lot and they're commons or whatever. When I had my comic store, and listen, probably 5 days a week, I had someone come in with an entire collection, and 95% of the time I turned them down because we just had so many comics in the store already, and these were commons and we just didn't need them. And so they were like, well, what do I do with them? I was like, well, donate them to, the local hospital, for kids, or the library or something like that. And you get a tax donation, tax write-off or whatever. So anyway, this organization, it's called Comic Books for Kids. You can go to their website. It's comicbooksforkids.org. And they will take your comics and they will distribute them to hospitals or cancer units for kids. They support 185 hospitals, and it's just a great organization. I have nothing to do with them, but I do feel that they're an organization worth mentioning and worth supporting and getting more news out there. So I highly encourage, if you're in the giving spirit and you've got some comics laying around, go to their website, follow the instructions. You can send your books in. They will handle the rest. Or if it's the end of the year and you just need a tax write-off, go ahead and do it. But whatever the reason behind it, it seems like a really good organization to support.
Rick, you're absolutely right. Right. And I've seen some posts recently, especially around Halloween, folks giving off comic books to kids in their neighborhood.
Yeah, right? I used to do that too.
Right. It's a great idea. I never thought of that. Right. It's a fabulous idea. This is even a better idea because we hear a lot of complaints about kids these days. You're not reading comics, and the businesses are suffering. Comic companies aren't selling as many comics. If you want to get kids interested in holding a comic in their hand and reading a comic book, get them some comic books. And this is one way to do that, and to do it for kids who really do need to take their mind off what they're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody needs escapism right now, kids in the hospital. So yeah, highly recommend. All right. So that being said, Bob, I got this package in the mail.
Ooh.
Yeah, the elves dropped it off, and I think it's from you. I'm not sure.
It's possible. Possible. I do have some pull with the elves.
Do you know?
Yeah.
I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that.
That's what they said.
Uh-huh. All right. So what should we get to opening our gifts?
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
So I got this in the mail like a week ago, and it has been sitting here.
Oh my.
And I have been looking at this
Yeah.
for a week now, and it's like this canvas bag, but it's like a gift bag. You know what I mean? But it's got like it's pulled at the top, so I can't look in. Now, I know it's not a basketball, right?
Yeah.
Like I could tell by squeezing. This is not. What were you trying to do right there?
That was my doughboy.
That was a horrible doughboy.
Well, it was spontaneous, Rick.
A horrible doughboy. Doughboy's more like, hee hee. I don't know what the hell you were doing.
Okay, well,
maybe you were doing the Marvel Doughboy.
I was lost in the moment.
Okay.
So,
yeah. I thought you were gonna be like, don't squeeze the Charmin. However, you kind of gave it away in the tag here because it says, "Merry Christmas, Rick. Stay warm."
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Yes.
So I already know it must be an Afghan.
Yeah. Yeah.
You quilted me a Captain America Afghan.
I did. I've been trying to take up new hobbies.
All right. So here's the funny part. All right. Because it says from Steve Rogers. Now, I went and I was like, what? And as we pointed out earlier, there is a Steve Rogers who not only listens to the show, but he's a patron. He's a supporter. He donates on a monthly basis. And I'm like, well, I've talked with Steve. Did he send me a gift? So I reached out to him.
Did you look on the address? Did it say the Lower East Side or San Antonio?
I didn't look at the address.
Oh.
So I reached out to Steve Rogers and I said, hey, Steve, you didn't happen to send me a package, did you? And he was like, well, I'm getting old and forgetful, but I'm pretty sure I remember that. So I was like, oh, okay. I think I knew who this is from. And
all right.
So I open this?
Oh, please. Yes,
okay.
Please. All right. Ooh, he's opening it up, folks. He's pulling out the decorative paper. It's a reusable bag there, so be gentle.
All right. Oop. It is a Captain America. Is it a hooded sweatshirt?
Oh, who can say?
What is this? Oh, it's very soft.
Yeah.
It is. That's a fine material right there.
High quality.
Yeah. That is a Captain America hooded sweatshirt. Zip up. Oh. It's a onesie. It's a onesie. I have pajamas now. Now, the only thing I will say, Bob, is I'm the pre-serum Steve Rogers.
Right.
Whereas I think this is the post-serum Steve
Well,
Rogers.
I don't know. You're going to have to, try that bad boy on. And I do have to admit, I did contact SHIELD, SHIELD headquarters. And
did you?
I spoke to the operative on duty.
And what did Megan say?
They gave me... I'm not at liberty to disclose who I spoke to, but they gave me some guidance on sizing, based on the available choices. So
she was just upstairs asking. She's like, "Oh, did you open the gift yet?" But she also knows what I got you.
Yeah.
The thing, I'm slipping it on people.
The reason I got this, Rick, is because folks they can't see us because it's just the audio, but I see Rick. if it's starting about October, I see him huddled in his basement, usually with a sweater and a sweatshirt and
That's usually a
hats.
Captain America hoodie. Come
It
on.
is. And I go, gosh, he looks cold down there in that in
Uh-huh.
that basement. He needs something to keep him warm so that he can be a more effective podcaster.
So you don't hear my teeth chattering.
Yeah, that's a distraction.
Yes. With the next interview we do, Bob, should I wear this?
You should. You absolutely should. Right, with the hood on.
Uh-huh.
Because it is, as you like to point out, it is comic book accurate.
Yes, because it has the red stripe under the star. All right. So folks, I am wearing I now have it on, and it is a full jumpsuit. It's a fleece suit. I think it's fleece. It's very warm, very soft. And it is the Captain America uniform, right?
Yeah.
With the white star on the chest,
Right?
the red and white stripes around the center. I have the hood that I put up, and Bob's about to see me.
Oh, I can't wait.
Here we go.
That's it. That's it, folks.
All right, I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna back up, and you could do a screenshot and take a picture of me.
All right, here we go. Perfect. Yeah.
How's that look?
Oh, that was awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
I'm gonna send you that.
So
photo
I
here.
think when we have our next creator on, and they're like, oh, well, via email they seem very professional, and then I'm gonna show up like this, and they're gonna be like, oh my god, how quickly can we not get this episode over with?
Perfect. That looks awesome. All right. See, toasty.
I am
Yeah.
completely warm now.
Yeah. See?
Is it form fitting? Is it what do you think? Is it
Oh,
show
yeah.
off my guns?
It's absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. Good.
All
Looking
right,
good,
Bob.
man.
Now, all right, it's your turn. Your
All
turn. You
right.
got to open up your gift.
All right. It looks like a bottle bag. So
It is. It's totally a bottle bag.
I was like, oh my gosh, the bottle seemed to have disintegrated. So
I went for the what's quicker than wrapping?
oh, nice. And of course, the red and blue colored paper. Very
Yeah.
nice. Very
Thematic.
nice. All right, thematic. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yes, it is that classic. Wank!
All right, so tell the listeners what are you looking at right now?
All right, so this is a T-shirt with
Uh-huh.
it looks to be a custom T-shirt, Rick. I
It
don't
is
know if these are
custom.
available to the general public.
No, this is specially made just for you, Bob.
Yeah, so as you know, we reviewed Acts of Vengeance, and so this is that classic panel where Captain America is he's on I can't remember he's on the ship, right?
Yeah,
he's in the ship, and it was who's the guy who
The voice.
the voice who commands people, right?
Mhm.
And in this instance, he is saying, Captain America, I command you, just as Captain America throws his shield at one of
The controller.
the controller, and the sound effect is whack. This is awesome.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah,
This
so
is beautiful.
we did if you're curious, go to listen to episode 110 where we do the Acts of Vengeance 3-part story, and Bob and I cracked up so much on that particular panel. We actually had to pause. We were laughing so hard. So I was like, oh, I'm getting a t-shirt made.
That is a great inside joke. I'm going to treasure that
All
T-shirt.
right, now you need to stand and hold it up so
Oh,
that
all right,
I can get a picture of you.
all right, all right. There we go.
Can you put it on?
Sure. All right, that's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I actually reached out to Shield headquarters, and she helped me with your size as well.
She never mentioned it.
No, I actually end up friending her on Facebook just so I could get through to a messenger on her. She did take a picture and send me she's like, This is hilarious, which was the Bob best gosh darn
Oh,
co-host.
right.
That was why she took a picture.
Oh, funny. Oh,
Yeah.
she's a sneaky. She used to be, she used to be an intel officer for the Navy.
A
So,
little espionage, huh?
yeah. So it's right up her wheelhouse.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you, Rick.
these were great gifts. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, Bob, this wasn't your dream cap related gift. Maybe it was, but if you had to have a distant second, what would be your dream Captain America related gift?
Rick, I'm so blessed, right? I've had so many, since joining I've gotten so many new different collectibles that I never thought I would be interested in. But there's one thing that eludes me. And I talked about it earlier. It's that membership card for the Sentinel of Liberty badge.
Okay.
I've got 3 badges. I've got 2 brass and a copper, and I love those things. They're some of my most prized possessions. But that card, I feel like it would be perfect if I could just pair a card with one of those badges. And I had a line on one once. One of our members had one, and he thought about selling, and he said, well, I'll let you know if I ever sell it. But he ended up selling it to someone else. And it broke my heart, but I'm still on the hunt, man. And one of these days I'll find one for sure.
Well, I wish you the best of luck in that. And, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But I got a feeling, Bob, you live a good life. I think karma might just look out for you.
You never know. How about you, Rick? What's your dream gift?
Well, I have in the last 4 or 5 years gotten into original art. It used to be comics, and I still have a love for comics, obviously. But after I completed my Captain America collection, and I'm very blessed, very fortunate. I got Captain America 100 to now, and then I did the Tales of Suspense 58 through 99, and I was like, where do I go from here? And I could have gone Golden Age Captain America, but you know what? It's just that's not my Cap.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my Steve Rogers. And so I decided to go original art, and which is just as equally expensive, if not more, than Golden Age comics anyway. So either way, I was going to cost me a pretty penny, and either way, I was going to be something I would get just slowly, one little piece at a time.
Right.
But I decided to get original art, and I have built up a very nice original art collection in the last few years, and I've been focusing on Mike Zeck because nostalgia, right? You're capturing a piece of your youth. And I look at guys out there who have midlife crises, and what do? They buy a sports car, they buy a classic car from their youth that reminds them of their youth, right?
Yeah.
And I could have gone that route, and but as soon as you buy a car, it depreciates.
And the maintenance.
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm just not a car guy.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if I put money into something, I wanted to either, keep the same value or potentially increase. And so that's why, I was like, well, I feel justified. You could talk yourself into anything, right? That's how I justified myself into getting some original art. So I have a nice collection of Mike Zeck original art. I've been very, very fortunate that way. But my dream, as I mentioned before, my first Captain America comic that I ever purchased with my own money was Captain America 286. That is the cover of Deathlock Lives, where Deathlock got his cap in his sculpts. I heard a rumor. I believe the rumor of the person who owns it. He is a guy who owns some comic shops in the Southeast. He puts on a few shows. But I don't know this for sure, so I'm not going to say his name. But I believe he owns it, and he's owned it for decades, and he's never going to get rid of it anytime soon. So the chances of me getting it are very slim. And quite frankly, I want to, keep my house and my marriage. So I'm not even, but hey, that's what the question was, right? What's your dream Captain America gift? Yeah. I would love to own the cover to the very first Captain America comic I ever owned, and that would be cover 286. Now, in the meantime, I have the next best thing. A couple years ago, we had as you mentioned before, is a member in our Facebook group, is the artist Mike Perkins. And Mike Perkins did do Captain America for the Ed Brubaker series, right? He inked Steve Epting. There are many issues he penciled. He did some covers, and he's still out there today, still doing artwork, and he also does some commissions. He did a recreation of Captain America 286 for me, and I have that, and that's a really cool thing to have. So that's the next best thing.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Perkins, right? I mean, he's just a magnificent artist.
100%.
Yeah.
All right, Bob, before we get into, I want to get into the top 5 list that I created that's focused on you. Before we do that, though, do you want to get into your favorite interview from the last year? Share that with the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many good ones, Rick. And again, it's hard to pick one, right? Because I mean, I could pick to any number of the ones that we did that were special in some way.
Hi, I'm Jim Shooter.
Hi, this is Al Milgram.
Hi, I'm Mark Wade.
This is Alana Smith.
Hey, I'm Jackson Lansing.
And I'm Colin Kelly.
This is Dan Jurgens.
This is Paulo Rivera.
This is Toshio Nyebuchi.
Gosh, Dan Jurgens was great, and Tonya and Alana Smith, and Toche and Alana Smith, and Al Milgram was surprising in how much that hit me as a great interview. But the one that really, I think, if I had to pick one, it was definitely episode 104, and it's the one we did with Paulo Rivera. The Mythos Captain America, Jenkins and Rivera did, is my favorite origin retelling. The art is amazing. The writing is spot on. But that interview was interesting in a lot of ways. One is Paulo is a very engaging guy, right? A lot of fun to talk to, right? And we talked a lot about his blog, where he provides a lot of the background for his research and the techniques that he uses in his art. But in that episode, it was around 31 and a half minutes that I asked him about some of the level of detail that he embedded in the panels where Steve Rogers visits the Veterans of Foreign War post in New York City. And I had bought a page from that series of pages where Steve is visiting the VFW. And Paulo starts to talk about his research, how he went to the VFW in New York City, and he went in and he got a tour, and he starts talking about in the comics, the murals that he has depicted on the walls of the VFW, and how he tries to imply that Steve, who is an artist, was the artist of those murals.
And I will say that was an eye opener to me when he said that. Like, it never dawned on me when reading that story that the artwork in the VFW would have ever been done by Steve. Like, I knew Steve had done art in the comics, right, as an artist, but it didn't occur to me. That was eye-opening when Paulo mentioned that.
Yeah, and I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give away the detail, right? But he mentions a specific detail that from earlier in the book that shows up in those murals that connects the dots. And you're right, I missed that too. So that was an eye-opener. But at around, I think, 34, 39 in that interview, he starts talking about the tables and the chairs at the VFW, right, that he notices when he's visiting the real one, and how they're stacked up on the sides of the room with just a couple tables. And that's how it's depicted in the story as well. And he gets emotional. He gets choked up, and we get choked up, right? Because we know what he's talking about. He's talking about the fact that the greatest generation, they're dying off. Right. And he told me in a personal email, that in that panel, Steve Rogers is sitting at the table with a bunch of old vets. And the vet, I think to his right, was based on Paulo's uncle, who served in World War II. And so that generation is dying off. And so that those tables and chairs stacked up on the side are symbolic of what we're losing with every year that passes. And we're all getting choked up, right? Because there's so much symbolism in the way that story is depicted and written by Jenkins and Rivera. It's just a great interview.
It really is. We let's play that.
In the comic and in Jenkins' script, Steve Rogers
is an artist. Like he keeps a sketchbook. And so I wanted to subtly suggest that maybe he could have done it. I didn't make it explicit, but I think what it was. Oh yeah. So in the very first few pages, I have him drawing a rose, and then I put that rose in the mural. And I don't know if it's on the page that you have, but it's among those pages that I did that. And then the other like detail that I don't think I would have done had I not visited was the tables being put up. So, if you had told me to draw a VFW post, I would have, come up with a room, and I would have had lots of tables and chairs and everything. And when I got there, they had all those tables and chairs, but they're all put up on the side because, they're not having an event. And to me, like, it was just perfect. Like, as soon as I walked in that room, I was like, because the whole book is about these guys, and Steve Rogers is like, he's not getting older, and the rest of his friends are, and it just,
yeah,
it's
really powerful.
Really is, and to see that generation kind of pass, really. And so to do that story when you and Paul did was a very timely story, in the fact that here's a last chance that we can tell this story. We're actually capturing plausibility of when these real live men could still be with us, and celebrate them, and also the sadness that those tables were up against the wall because they weren't celebrating, right? There wasn't a lot there going on anymore. Very solemn and very respectful. So it came across beautifully in your work.
Thank you. That's what I was trying.
Oh yeah, I got to say, Bob, it was a great interview. And not I guess not. Paulo Rivera maybe is not a household name. For a lot of comic fans, they might know of his work. I mean, he's done over 200 covers. But he's certainly an established creator, but he's a beautiful painter. And I'm lucky enough to own a few pages from that book as well that I purchased from a private collector. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I absolutely did really enjoy that conversation with him. It was very candid and very, off the cuff and as you pointed out, very, some points very emotional.
And those are the interviews that really get me, Rick, when we're really connecting with the guest, and something comes through that, like a question or something maybe they didn't expect, and it all comes out. How about you, Rick? What was your favorite episode? And we had so many great ones, but what stuck out for you?
Well, that was a tough one. I will say we kicked off the year in 2020 with an amazing interview with legendary writer, editor, publisher, Jim Shooter. That was a great conversation about his time, involved with the Captain America character, obviously. And we got his perspective on some things after we had gotten to about the story. Like, for instance, we talked to J.M. DeMatteis about Captain America 300 and why he left the book, and it had a lot to do with Jim Shooter. And we asked Jim Shooter his thoughts on that same topic. We talked to John Beatty, legendary inker, longtime collaborator with Mike Zeck. He had some stories to tell about Jim Shooter and about the editing direction that he got from Jim, about shadowing and things like that. So we asked Jim about it, and Jim had his perspective.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of great conversations about, Secret Wars and so on. So that was an amazing conversation. And, if people haven't checked that out, I highly recommend they do. That was in episode 65, which was almost a year ago. But I'd have to say my favorite interview for this year, and they're all the guests were great, right?
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong. But I'm going to go with Mark Waid, right? Mark Waid was, he's in my top 3 Captain America writers of all time. So there, I'm already biased, but then he just nailed it. I love when guests come on and they tell me, and they tell us, you know what, I have X amount of time to talk with you guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And then
It's
we,
busy.
yeah, and then we get into the conversation
Uh-huh.
and we ask really good questions.
Yeah.
And then we show that we've done our homework.
Yeah.
And we show that we have a lot of passion and interest.
Yeah.
And then they end up talking twice as long as they said they were going to talk about.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And Mark was one
Yeah.
of those guys.
Yeah.
Right. We end up having, a well over an hour conversation with him, and we covered so many things. Right. Not least of which was when he revealed how he finally cracked the code on writing Cap after 25 years.
Yeah.
Like what to be a Cap writer, what does that mean? Because Mark Waid had many stints as Captain America, right?
Mhm.
So he followed Mark Grunwald to finish off Volume 1. He came back a year and a half later to kick off Volume 3. He did the Sentinel of Liberty series,
Mhm.
right? And then they brought him back after, the Hydra Cap story, and they need to get back to the grassroots, right? They need to get back to the adventurer. They need to get, the cross country Captain America. Who did he bring back? Mark Waid,
Yeah.
right? He did the Man at a Time miniseries, right? So he knows the character.
Yeah.
So he gave his thoughts on, does Cap kill? And why he had Cap kill the Red Skull. Because he did. He had Cap kill Red Skull in one of his stories. We talked about whether Cap is apolitical. We talked about the Red Skull story where he has to have his name removed from the story.
Mhm.
When he was pulled from Volume 1 for Rob Liefeld, and
Mhm.
his reaction to that, and why he will never write Cap again.
Right.
That was like eye-opening, right?
Yeah.
That to me was just a fun interview. He didn't hold back at all.
No, he certainly didn't. It was very frank. It was a frank conversation, as in a lot of ours are very frank, and you're right. We do get a lot of interviews that start off with like a certain amount of time. Do you remember episode 100, Rick? Do you remember Dan Jurgens?
Oh, yes.
Remember that one, right? He was kind of grudging when he came on, but by the time we were done, he was like so engaged in the conversation, right? And he's like, "Oh, let's do this again sometime."
Yeah, and that happened on the episode. You weren't on there, but Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pre-recording, they were like, okay, we only have like so much time, blah, blah, blah. And then again, ends up being, well past their time because, they're having fun. They
Right.
understand the passion
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
have for this. And they understand that our listeners also have that same passion. They want to hear these things. They want to get into, the thoughts behind what is going on. We're not just going to talk about who's stronger, Captain America or Iron Man, right?
Right.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
sure. We do have our
Yeah.
fanboy questions that come out, and
Yeah.
we're both guilty of that.
Sure.
But you and I, we like to get to the thoughts behind,
Yeah.
the reasons behind they do the things, and we'd love to talk about the character that is Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that sets us apart, right? We ask some questions that maybe hadn't been asked before. And I think folks who do these interviews all the time, either in person, on podcasts, at Comic-Cons, They appreciate the effort that goes in coming up with some questions that maybe they hadn't fielded before.
All right, Bob, time for some dramatic music.
Ooh, who doesn't like dramatic music?
I don't normally do this. I mean, I do edit the podcast, but I don't like, we don't do special effects and music and stuff like that. But I think for this one, it's time for some dramatic music.
Is that a cowbell?
I need more cowbell. I got a fever. All right. Bob, I put a lot of thought and a lot of time and a lot of effort into creating a top 5 list.
I appreciate that.
And this top 5 list focuses on you, Bob. And this is in 2022, Rick's top 5 Bob-led episodes. Now, what does that mean? That means Bob comes up with the concept and the idea. He executes on that by doing the research and providing the outline and the notes. And I take the back seat and I just come along for the ride, right? I just show up and I might have some thoughts and but most of it is fully dedicated to you, Bob. So I really wanted to focus on the last 51 episodes of this year, Bob.
Yeah.
Here are my top 5 Bob-led episodes. Okay. Number 1. Yeah, I'm starting with number 1, not number 5. Okay. Number 1, episode 84, which is the top 10 other retcons.
Oh, it's a classic.
Part 1. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This was actually 1 episode, but I said, well, let's break it into 2. Right?
Yeah.
But it was good. It was really good. You did a lot of research on the retcons that have happened in Cap's life that were not the obvious. Not Avengers number 4 where Cap's frozen, right? We're talking the other ones.
Yeah.
Number 2, episode 89, top 10 other retcons, part 2.
Oh, it's one time when the sequel's better than the original, like Godfather. Empire Strikes Back.
You're pulling me in. All right. Ready? Number 3 of the top 5 Bob-led episodes. Episode 114. Oh, that was last episode. And that was the Captain America from the 1950s.
That was a good one. Yeah.
It was a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that was put in for a Grammy. I mean, that's a rumor, but I don't,
Yeah, okay.
All right, I can't wait.
I don't have a 4 or 5.
Oh! Rick, was this some sort of slam or something? Is this why you asked me if I would be offended? My mantra, Rick, is it's always quality over quantity.
Well, kudos to you, Bob, for living that mantra. Because you have avoided the quantity like no man I've ever met before.
Yeah, well, research takes time.
It really does.
It does. It takes time.
It does.
Yeah. I got to reflect. I got to research. I got to reflect, research. It's an endless cycle.
Oh
my goodness.
All right. Maybe in 23 we'll actually have 5.
We might. I have some ideas.
Do you have some ideas?
Well,
before we get to ideas for 23, let's look back at the bucket list that we did for this year, 2022. So when I went back and I listened to episode 64, which was our 1 year anniversary show, And by the way, if listeners, if you haven't listened to that one yet, that's a fun episode too, right? So go listen to the 1 year anniversary show, which was the theme of that one was our best and worst Captain America related gift. Anchor was actually working at the time, and people actually called in, so we could actually hear people's voices, and people had some great ideas. I remember Grant Boz, he had the mother-in-law Captain America crocheted shawl something, and then the shield waffle maker,
right? Yeah.
Or pancake maker or whatever. Yeah.
Something. Yeah. There was a they have the combination. I have the crock pot. I remember talking about the crock pot that I got.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was episode 64. Rick. So at the end of 64, yeah, it's still in the box, people. That's what he means.
It's mint. My mint.
That's what he means. He doesn't take things out of the box.
I know. Yeah.
It really is.
It's a sickness.
It really is. I'm surprised he's actually wearing the t-shirt right now.
You're right. It was painful, but I put it on.
I made him put on the t-shirt. Otherwise, it would be folded up somewhere nicely
vacuum sealed
with his red, white, and blue Captain America sneakers.
I still haven't worn those.
I know you haven't.
I'm waiting for a special occasion.
Yeah, we already pointed out in that episode, I'm pretty sure that you're going to wear them in your casket. That would probably be the first time you wear them.
Right. It's a thought. I'm going to put that in my will and testament.
Anyway, so at the end of the 1 year anniversary, we actually did, here's our bucket list for 22. Bob, would you like me to refresh your memory of what we did?
I think we should.
All right, we had 8 things, 8 items. We did 3 of them.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm not a math major. That means we have 5 left to do.
Yeah.
We only have 1 week to do it, so it ain't gonna happen.
Okay.
All right. So here are the 8 items we talked about covering in 22. Number 1, the Medusa Effect one-shot from 1994. We didn't do that.
No, we didn't.
Now, we didn't do that because I didn't want to do it. Why didn't I want to do it? Well, because I'm holding out hope that we're going to get Roy Thomas on the show as a guest. I keep hearing definite maybe. I actually went to a show a month ago, stood in a very long line just so I could say, hey, can you please be on our show again? And I gave him what would Cap Do Challenge coin. I did get the Medusa Effect one-shot autographed. That's cool.
That is cool.
So that's on me.
All
we'll
right.
do that, when we get Roy Thomas on the show.
All right.
Number 2, Captain America Patriot miniseries. It was a 4-part miniseries that came out in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't we do that, Bob?
I don't know why we haven't done that yet. It's a great story, and the art's great.
All right, I'm down. All right, number 3, a top 10 Captain America retcon show. Well, bing, 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 bing. We did that. We actually made that 2 episodes. Number 4, a show with 2 Golden Age stories. And didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Number 5, a Commie Smasher story or 2 from Captain America Comics 76 through 78 back in 1954.
What?
Bing, 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 bing.
Yeah.
Hey, we just
I
did
am
that.
coming through for you, Rick.
No, dude, this was you putting this on the list.
2 out of the 3 that we did do were the ones that I led. So
The ones that you put on the list.
You're welcome.
You put them on the list. Anyway, so we just did that last episode, right? 76 and 78. Number 6, do another March Madness. And then we asked, should it be a reseeded version of last year? Which was in 21 where we did, a March Madness on favorite Cap artists, or should we do top writers? We never did a March Madness. Now
we did, kinda.
I blame me. What do you think we did?
Did we not do covers?
Oh yeah, we called it Cover Madness. Oh man,
folks, he's here. He's like, He's got one hand in a bag of potato chips, and the other hand is in a
It's
bottle
not.
of Norviva or whatever that
It-
Noriva stuff that.
No, I'm having a trail mix. Dude, we've been talking for so long. I need like a sugar rush.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we did that. Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding, 4. We got 4 done.
Thanks to me. Thanks to me. Because God knows I was the one who did all the work on that March Madness.
Right. Although technically this was a Facebook event, not a
Whatever.
podcast event.
All right, number 7, we did the captain storyline, which we did. In fact, in our bucket list, we did 332 to 350, but we did the road to the captain.
Right.
We actually extended that.
Yeah.
So we went from 19 issues to 24 issues.
No extra charge.
Number 8, What If 44, which came out in 1984. That was the one where it's What If Captain America were not revived until today?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't we do that one? That's a good
I don't
one.
know. Yeah. You know, it's people. I mean, it's frequently brought up in the Facebook group. People comment on it, talk about it, post about it. We definitely got to have to do that one.
Okay. So let's add that to the 2023 bucket list. So for 2023, we're adding the Medusa Effect, Captain America Patriot miniseries, maybe a show with 2 Golden Age stories. We'll do another March Madness. Who knows what that will be? We'll do What If 44. Okay. So we did half of them. We did half of them. And then, of course, we'll do another March Madness, and then I'll forget about it again.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So anything else you want to add to the bucket list?
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a number of things I'd love to do, Rick. You know, I like some of the more obscure Cap stories, you know, ones that aren't necessarily in the main volumes, maybe the one shots, some of the miniseries we talked about doing the Patriot. I think that's a great idea. So I would love, I'd love to do a couple of the stories out of the Captain America Theater of War.
Oh yeah.
Series.
Paul Jenkins.
Right. So Prisoner of Duty, that was a great one. A Brother in Arms, that was a good one. America the Beautiful, another great one. So, you know, those are 3 very different stories, but great books. And I think we should definitely take a look at those.
I agree. I think that's a great idea. I have a few of those. I went to the convention, you know, a couple of conventions recently in this past year, and I went to like the dollar boxes, and you can get them cheap. You know, you can get them real cheap. And so I picked up a few. I haven't read them yet, but I am a big fan of Paul Jenkins. And when we had Paulo Rivera on, you know, who Paul Jenkins wrote Captain America Mythos. So, you know, between Theater of War and Mythos, maybe we can try to get Paul Jenkins on the show. That would be great, wouldn't it?
That would be awesome. That would be a real coup. I'd love to pick his brain because he seems to get Cap. So another thing I'd like to look at, Rick, is, and I know that, you know, this is, some folks love it, some folks hate it, some folks don't have an opinion, I guess. I guess that pretty much covers everybody. But the Captain America Dead Men Running from 2002. It's an unusual piece, miniseries. It's a little hard hitting, but I think it's an interesting story. So, you know, we might consider that one. I'd like us to, you know, we haven't spent a lot of time in the annuals, but it might be worth plumbing some of the annuals. Even the most recent one, 2018, the Captain America annual, right? I guess that's not the most recent one. The second most recent one. That's a great story, and it has an interesting background to it with the creative team. So that might be fun. And then, you know I love the deep dives, the research pieces. So I would love to do a deep dive on the third Captain America, Jeff Mace. All the way from Golden Age up through the retcons and really the what if stories, and just to explore that character a bit, because I think he's interesting. And then maybe another deep dive with a guest on the psychology of Captain America. Right? I think that'd be fun. Well, I've got some folks in mind that might want to come on and who have a background in the psychiatric field or psychology. And it would be interesting to pull their expertise and talk a little bit about Captain America, Steve Rogers as a person. And I think that would be interesting.
I'm always down for wrapping Cap philosophically. I love talking about his moral, his ethics. What would Cap do? Right. So
yeah.
I'm down with that.
What do you got? You got anything else other than the carryovers?
Well, you know, we talked about a couple of things before. One of the things was a top 10 Captain America speeches.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be a lot of fun. God knows Steve Rogers has been on a few soapboxes in you know, throughout the decades, and he's given some really good speeches. I would love to do a top 10 on those. I think the listeners would enjoy that.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of input.
Indeed. The other one I would want to add to the bucket list for next year is doing the Captain America community theater show, right? So we got some good feedback when we did that episode 98 with where, you know, I was doing Captain America and John Waller Sewell was doing Batroc. And, you know, how can we take that to the next level? How can we pick a story and then we get various listeners or members of the Facebook group who want to portray different characters. And then we do a story, but multiple people doing multiple voices. And, you know, we'll have a little fun with that. I actually have had somebody reach out to me who's had experience in community theater who would be interested in supporting that. And my son is a theater major in college. He's about to graduate. So, you know, he might be a little interested in that. So, you know, we could do some auditions. We can have a lot of fun with that and make it a big project. So it takes a little time and effort and planning, but, you know, I would love to somehow tackle that in 2023.
That sounds like it'd be a heck of a lot of fun. And who doesn't like acting?
Thank you, John Lovitz. And also, I think we need to figure out, like when we did, you know, that 8-part story, you know, 24 issues with the Captain. There are some stories that we look at when you and I kind of like, well, what are we going to do this month? You know, we kind of plan out the calendar. And we try to look at what are we going to do? Oh, I don't want to do that. That's a 6-part story. That's going to be too much. And look, doing three issues in one episode can sometimes run a little long, like this episode. But so, you know, maybe we could tackle it a little bit smaller chunks. So, you know, what would that be? That could be going back, you know what we didn't do last year at all, Bob? We didn't do volume 5, Steve Epting's.
Yeah.
Right. We didn't do any volume 6,
right,
which is Steve Epting.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a longer story in there that, you know, we pick and we do 1 or 2 issues every single month until we complete that story. That's an option. You know, we could look at volume 4, which was the Reiber Cassidy run, you know, right after 9/11. That's a longer story we didn't do. Maybe that's something that we explore. You know, there's a lot of different choices out there. So maybe we just, I don't know, maybe we just go on Facebook, we post a poll, we ask for suggestions, and then we go with what the listeners want.
Give the listeners what they want. Give the people what they want, Rick, you know?
Indeed.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I look forward to hearing what they have to say and what they want to hear.
All right. So one little teaser. We did promise we're going to announce coming up in the beginning of January, our next guest, Bob, is going to be a creator that no one will suspect in a million years. That is Erik Larsen. Erik Larsen's going to be on the show.
Wow.
I know. So he's a writer. He's an artist. He's been a publisher. Erik Larsen, mostly known for Savage Dragon, you know, for the last 30 years. You know, he helped launch Image Comics. Prior to that, he was a really fantastic artist on Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man after the Todd McFarlane runs. He's done a lot of stuff. Anyway, we're going to have him on the show. So we're going to kick off 2023 in grand fashion with an interview with Eric Larson. Why? Because he did the one shot a couple years ago of Captain America, The End. And we want to talk to him about that, which also, by the way, we're going to cover panel by panel next episode.
You don't want to miss that. It's a really cool story.
Yep. Wow. We covered a lot, Bob.
Sure did.
And we've certainly covered a lot in the year 2022. I'm so grateful for just this time, our normal regular schedule. You and I chat, we sit here, we laugh, we have fun. We talk about Cap, and it's just a special time for me. And I'm glad the listeners agree and the listeners enjoy our conversations.
It is. And the only thing that would make it better, Rick, is if they could see you in that onesie with me.
Oh, I guess I'll have to go on Facebook to see it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And
like snug as a bug in a rug.
Yeah, I know. And I gotta say, you're rocking the guns in that T-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Of your, I command you to wank.
My wife's gonna be like, you guys.
Because she knows, like, I was like, what size should I get him? Because I was thinking maybe, a certain size. She's like, no, get this size. And it looks like it fits you.
Oh yeah, it fits great.
Yeah. I highly recommend wash it in cold.
All right.
Wash it in cold because it was specially made for you, and it may fade if you wash it in hot.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah. But she's gonna be like, I know you got him a shirt. What is it?
Yeah, I know. She's so excited, I'm sure.
I'm sure she is. All right, Bob, as always, it's been fun for the last year. Well, 2, wrapping Cap with you.
Yeah. Hey, let's do this again next year.
Excellent. All right. He's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis, and you have been listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. And my voice is gone.
That whole Ellen Barkin quality going.